Welcome back, game developers. Today we are going to be remaking the watch mechanic from Resident Evil 7. Although this is a bit of a longer tutorial, by the end of it you will learn and understand how to apply the same logic for whatever item you may want to create. You will also know how to change the watch to display whatever you want since we are using widget components. With that being said, if you could like, subscribe, and comment down below more tutorials you would like to see in the future, that would be greatly appreciated. Also, if you would like to download everything you're seeing today, see your name along with everyone else's, get early access to videos, and much more, the link to join my Patreon is down below. Alright, with that being said, let's get right into the tutorial. The first thing you're going to want to do is go to Sketchfab and kind of go wristwatch shopping. We're essentially going to want to find one wristwatch or watch in general that we want to use for this tutorial. So you can go on Sketchfab, for example, and make sure you're on the downloadable section and look for any wristwatch that you like. In my case, I found this digital wristwatch and I'm going to be using that one. So I will import that right now and set everything up. Alright, so I've just imported all of the textures, materials, as well as the static meshes right here, and so we will start applying the textures to the materials right now. So I'll grab all of the textures for the band, I'll go into the band material, drag them all in and connect the color to the color, the normal to the normal, and the roughness to the roughness. This will essentially be the same exact process for all of the materials, so I'll kind of skip forward to the end when I have all of these done. The face material is a little bit different because it has an emissive, but it's essentially the same thing. So if you want to, you can drag these in, bring them in like so. Basically everything that has a name will go to the corresponding thing. So this base color will go to base color, the emissive will go to emissive color, this will go, this is the normal map, this normal is going to go into the normal, and the roughness will go straight into the roughness. So we can save that, and then we can go back to our glass, and the glass is going to be a little bit different as well, not like the band, case, or face. We're going to make sure we grab the glass materials, bring those in, and we essentially just want to make sure that the glass goes into the base color and the opacity, but you can see right here the opacity is grayed out. So what we want to do is click on this glass, make sure that it's surface, then masked, then make sure it's default lit. And I'm sorry, not opacity, we want it to go into opacity mask. Now we want the roughness to go right into roughness, and it's as easy as that. Now we can save and close all of these different materials and start setting them up on our actual static meshes. So as you can see on our static meshes right now, they are on there. So what we'll do is we can right click, go to blueprint class of type actor and call it BP_watch. Inside of this watch, we can open it up and we're basically going to add these static meshes so that we can see them inside this watch and spot it in like that. So let's go into our watch, but before we do, let's highlight over these three so you can either click on all of them and hold control, left control, or you can click on the first one all the way to the left, hold shift, and click on the right one all the way to the right, and that will highlight all of them. Now we'll go to our BP_watch, press add, and you can see static meshes, multiple assets. That's all the assets that we want. So that's perfect for us. So now we can see our actual static mesh is apparent inside of our watch. After this, we're going to want to make sure we go over all of our different static meshes and adjust their collision settings so they all work. So can characters step up on? No, they cannot step up onto the watch. Conversely, they also will not be block all dynamic. They will be of the character mesh since they will be tied to the character. Next, we're going to actually place this wristwatch on our actual character. So let's go to content, first person, blueprints, and then BP_first person character. We'll open that up, and what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to make sure that we connect the wristwatch to our actual character. To do so, we want to go to the viewport so we can see our character, make sure that we are in a good position so we can see it like so. Go all the way over here to add, and we're going to do the same exact thing where we're going to add a component to our blueprint, but this time we're going to add a child actor. The child actor will look like this. You can see it's like a parent icon with a little child. This is how you basically spawn in a blueprint. So we can open this up, and we're going to want to spawn in this BP_watch blueprint, but we don't want it just anywhere in this blueprint. We want to make sure it's specifically on the mesh, so it moves along with the mesh as well. After this, we're going to want to make sure it has a very specific set of transform and socket so that it always is on our left wrist, or if you want to make it on right wrist, you can do it on right wrist as well. For our case, we're going to make it on wrist outer L. So we're going to look for wrist_outer_L. And you can see right now it's going to go straight to the left wrist, but the transform is not set up correctly. So let's first set up the child actor class to be of BP_watch. So let's look up BP_watch, and now you'll see that the watch will pop up right here, but it's not in the right position, obviously. So let's give it the right location. Luckily, I have my project right here where I have all the transform. So I'll plug it in right now. So for the location, it's going to be 0.80 or 8303. Then this will be 0.168377. And the Z direction is going to be -2.400. So now you can see it's already on the wrist, but we're going to want to make sure that we have the rotation aligned in the correct way so that it all appears correctly for us. So we want it to be -99.87. The Y will be -1.879, and the Z will be -5.017. And the scale, we're going to make it so it's 1.1 conversely. So what you can do is you can press this so it locks all the scales and just make it all 1.1 all around the board. So now if you zoom in, you can see that the wristwatch is snugly on the wrist, and you can see that it will not move off this wrist no matter where we're moving as the character moves. Great, so now as a child of this, we can also rename this. So let's just call it watch, and let's rename this watch. And then let's also make sure it has a child component. So the child component we want is how we're going to set up this watch in its entirety. It's going to be a widget component. So we'll grab this widget, make sure you click on it, and make sure it is a child of this watch. You can see something just popped up. Ignore that for a second. We're basically just going to make sure that this is aligned to the watch. So when we actually create our widget, it appears in the right location. So let's first change the material because we don't want it to be this material. We want to scroll down until we see translucent. Now you can see something popped up right here. That's perfectly fine. We essentially just want to make sure that all of the settings right here are aligned with how our widget is going to be set up when we create that. So make sure that it is world, real time, and we're going to set our widget class once we get it, but make sure the draw size for this particular one is 900 by 900. Now this all depends on what object you're creating. So for a wristwatch, and since this one is a circle, we're going to be basically creating a circle inside of our widget that's going to show all of our components in our widget, but in this case it would be 900 by 900. In other cases it might be something different, along with the scale, location, rotation, what have you. So let's make sure that our location and scale and everything like that is set up correctly as well. So for the location, I will also be copying that setting from my other project. We can do -0.173784. And then for the Y direction, it's going to be 2.861286. And then the Z direction will be 0.11564. And then making sure the rotation is also aligned in the correct way. So let's reset this. We're going to want this to be 0, 0, and then this direction will be 95. And then for the scale, this is also very important. As you can see, it is very large right now and is not in the correct way that we want it to be. So we're going to need to change this scaling by a lot. So let's change the scale to make sure that it aligns with how it should be. The scale is 0.0013, very, very small. And make sure that it is, since we had snapping on, the locking on, it locked all of them to 0.0013, but we can keep it like that and then just unlock this so we can adjust some of them. So this one will be, instead of like this, it'll be double, because it'll be double the size. And then we're going to want to make sure that the other edge is also bigger to compensate for the sphere. So we'll use 0032. And now you can see that it covers this and it's a little square, but what we'll actually do in our widget is we'll use a circle to mask that, and we'll make sure that it's not seen throughout the rest of these little corners. The last thing that we're going to do in our actual BP_first person character, at least for now before we start coding it, is creating another camera that's going to be able to be cycled through when we go to our watch camera. So let's go to create another camera, a camera component, and this time we don't want it to be a child of this, we just want it to be a child of the mesh, because we don't want it to be looking at it like that. We'll keep it just like this and we'll call it watch cam. And this is essentially just going to be a reference for us, so then we can reference between where our camera is and where the watch camera should be. So let's make sure that we set the parent socket to be the head. We can go just like this to the head, and then we can make sure that we reset all of these different locations, rotations, and scales. So it's going to look like this, but we're going to set our own location and everything like that right now. So let's make sure that we set it to be -3.5598. and then I will set the Y direction to be 18.952181, and the Z direction will be negative 0.263625. And of course, if you get these like off by maybe like you put 6 instead of that 5, it won't really make that big of a difference. It's just to really have a reference for you guys so you guys can join along. Most of the time you're really going to find this actual location by yourself, just searching and figuring out what looks best for you. Anyways, the rotation will be negative 91.5010 degrees in the X direction, and then negative 9.944182 in the Y direction, and then 112.76196 in the Z direction, and the scale will stay the same. So you can see as it is right now, it's kind of pointed towards the left. That's because our animation will basically make its arm go around and to the right, because it's in the left position. So it's going to go around and to the right, and we're going to be able to see it just like so. So this is the right position for us, but if you have a different item that you're using that's not a wristwatch or something like that, you'll want to adjust it accordingly. So we can compile and save just like so. And the next thing we're going to want to do is actually create our widget blueprint so that we can actually see our wristwatch on this wrist just like so. Let's go back to our first person map and let's figure out a good place to put our widget blueprint. So let's go to first person, we can go to widget, and let's go right here and create a widget into user interfaces. Go to widget blueprint and we'll call it WB_watch. And so this watch is going to be, like I said, our widget blueprint. It's going to hold everything that you want to be seen on the watch's face. So the first thing we want to do is get an overlay. And the reason for that is because an overlay can make it so you can have multiple different widget elements like a text, panel, whatever you want really to show all at once on one single component. So we're going to use an overlay for this way, and we're then going to get a canvas panel so we can have a place to place all of our different components. So let's make sure that this canvas panel, you can see right now in the top left, it's very, very small. We just want to click the horizontal alignment to be full and the vertical alignment to be filled, both of them to be filled. And then after that, we're going to want to grab a image, and this image is basically going to be the size of our watch. So we basically just want this to fill our watch size. So let's go to draw as and border box, and you can see right now that it is a little bit different. All we want to do really to show this is anchor it to the middle and reset the positions, and then change this size to be what we want it to be. So let's change it to be 900 by 900 because that's what we set in our right here into our widget component. Right here is the draw size, so it's be 900 by 900, and we're basically going to display it just like so. Let's change the alignment to be 0.5 and 0.5 so that it is directly in the center of the screen, and so we can see it in the way that it is meant to be seen. After this, we're just going to want to change the color. Just if you want to, you can change the color or keep the color, whatever you really want to do. I'm basically just going to change it to be something so it's very seen. So let's make it like 0.47, make this 1 and make this 0.23, just so you could see that green very vividly, and we'll keep it just like so. And now you'll have this sphere that basically will be the size of this specific watch. So if you have a different watch, you can always change it to be that specific size. So for example, if you have a rectangular watch, you'll want this to not be like this, but instead you could probably actually use the overlay or the canvas panel as a way to show it. I kind of just did this sphere one so I could show you the hardest methodologies that you would need to do for 3D widgets, and in this case this will be a very good way to do it. So let's keep it like this, and everything you want to create, like I said, will have to be in this sphere area, and that is going to be where you want everything. So let's go back and let's make sure that we add something else just so we can really make sure that we can see everything on our watch. So let's just add a text, and let's make it right here on the canvas panel, and let's just make sure that it's centered into the middle of the screen, because remember what I said, everything in these corners are not going to be able to be seen. Well, they will, but they won't be on your actual watch face, so they won't look right. Just make sure that it's all on this sphere or this circle right here. So just like everything else, let's center our text to the middle of the screen, reset its position, and change the font or maybe the color, whatever you want to do. Let's just make it something simple like subscribe to code things, which you should do, by the way, if you haven't done it already. And let's go to the beginning and just make sure that it's on a different line. So we'll keep it like this, and then let's make sure that this size is a little bit bigger so you can see it, as well as the color. Change the text so it can be appeared in a better way, just like so. And if you want to, you can change the alignment again to be 0.5 and 0.5, and that will make it directly in the center of the screen. So we can compile and save this, and now you'll see this as what you would like. And now what we can do is we can go back to our first person character, go to our widget component, and make sure that this is the widget class that we have. So we can search for WB_watch, and now what you'll see is if your blueprint right here, the viewport is in real time, you can go to your little watch right here, and you'll see that it will say subscribe to code things right here, which is what I made it say, but it'll say whatever you want it to show on your actual watch. Now you'll see right here that it is sideways in the way that we're looking at it, but when we pull it around and actually show it to the character, it will be in the straight position, so it's going to be the way that we actually want it to show. After this, we can compile and save, and now is really kind of the hard part of the tutorial. So we're going to have to create the animation for when we pull it up versus when it goes down and everything like that. So first thing we want to do is we can go to our content and just search mm_idle for whatever idle animation you're actually using. That's the one that I know my player uses, so we can use that and we can start working just like so. So let's make sure we go to our select mode and change that to be animation mode. Once we have animation mode pulled up, let's then change this filter to not be filtered like that anymore. Go to cinematics and animation forming. That's just an animation we made before, or a level sequence we made before, excuse me. You can use whatever one you would like to. It won't make that much of a difference. Just basically create a level sequence and just add your mesh to it. So what I'll do is I will delete this, and now you can see that there's nothing right there. So we can just click on our mesh that we want to start editing and add track, add actor to sequence, and it'll be the mm_idle I just added right there. Great, so now when making this animation, you're going to want to make sure that it has a couple of things. So initially, you don't want the arms to look like this because it'll be very apparent when you're going between animations if you have like a shadow or whatever. So what you can do is you can grab this little shoulder, make sure that it is rotated downward to kind of go to your side. If you want 30 degrees or 25 degrees, both are pretty good. I'll go with 25, and we essentially want to do that for both shoulders. We can keep it just like this and make sure that we're on the 0 time and make a key for our CR_mannequin body. So now we have a key, so it will stay this no matter what, but we're going to basically want to change this so that there's an animation, obviously. What I found is that if you have it as 0.5 seconds, it's a pretty good time for the transition between having your arms down to pulling up your wrist to show the wristwatch. So let's make sure that we make this a little bit bigger by holding control and scrolling in with our scroll wheel, and let's start adjusting some of these values. So what I like to do is I like to go to, let's make sure this is also the full thing. I like to go to our things that we want to move. So for example, I know that I want to move the left shoulder so that it is upward, so just like so. Move it upward just like that, and now we have a situation where we want to move our arm more towards the center of the head. So what we can do is we can grab the shoulder or the left elbow right here, move it inward and to whatever liking you would really like, and of course you can change this to however you would like it to be. And you also want the thumb to be downward. So what you can do is you can change this, and obviously you can tweak this to however you would like, but I found that this way is kind of the best way. And again, I'm making this kind of on the fly just to show you guys how to do this, but it is kind of the same process no matter what. If you do it like this and put your thumb down, you can see that is a good way to do it. You can also go to where the head is and kind of get a better representation of how you want it to look like. You want it to be like this a little bit, or if you want maybe this elbow to come in a little bit more, or go like this a bit more, or however you want the character to be looking at yours. You can do it just like however you would like, and we'll just kind of rotate this a bit more so that it is more looking at it like this and rotating it a bit more like this. So for my case, I think that is pretty good, but if it isn't, I will just add my animation to this, and you guys can always tinker with this to try to make it as nice as you would like it to be. In this case, what I'll do is I'll go all the way to the top right here, and I'll add this key. And what you can see is right here, we wanted to extend all the way to the end. So we can just extend it to the end like that. And now if we press play, it will show the wristwatch kind of how it would look for us. And we can always change this if you would like to make it farther or closer away. But that'll do for now. So all we want to do is go to our mm_idle, right click and go to bake animation sequence. We'll call this UE5_look@watch, and we want to press OK. But before we press OK, make sure that it's in the right directory. So I'll add it to my animation folder in my first person folder. I'll press OK, I'll press export, and now we'll have that animation. So what we can do for now is we can test that animation and see how it looks. So what I would recommend doing is go to your content browser, make sure you go out of animation mode, go to select mode, and go back to your first person character and change your actual mesh to be not using animation blueprint anymore, using animation asset. And the animation asset you're going to want to use is the one that we just created, which was UE5_look_at_watch. So you can see that we now can check this out through this lens, and it's going to be looping, but what you can do is you can just stop it from looping at the position in which it will be at the end. And if you're not sure what it will be, you can always change this initial position to be the end position, which for our case is 0.5, I believe. And so now, yeah, you can see this is what it will look like at the direct end. So now if you want, you can compile and save this and put this blueprint_first person character into your level and check with the character camera to see if it is in the right position for you. So what you can do is go right down here, go to watch cam, and you basically want to see if you like that one. So what we can do is we can go to first person camera, and you can see that's what that would look like, and then watch cam, and that's what that would look like. So for the watch cam, you can see this is a little bit too low. We can always change this to be a little bit higher or whatever we would like to do. So if we would like, we can go back to here and change it to be up higher, or we can just go and change these values. Again, I'm making this for the second time on the fly, so if you like the first version a lot, you can always download that from my Patreon as well. So what I'll do is I'll import the animation from my other project and just make sure to use that animation, since I know that the values that I preemptively had will work for that one. But you're always more than welcome to change the rotations, the locations of the arm, the animations, whatever you would like. I just wanted to show you guys the methodology to create the animation, so you can have it however you would like for either the wristwatch or whatever other item you want. Great, so now I've imported the new animation. All you want to do is make sure also that your watch cam, I forgot about this, make sure your watch cam auto activation is unchecked. Make sure that is not automatically activated. Then you'll compile and save, and we can start working on the actual code behind this. So I'll go into the first person map and I'll show you. This is how it looks for when it works for mine. So I actually just automatically activated it or deactivated it, but basically this will now be able to look at it and make sure that it's all aligned and everything like that. It looks pretty good. So we're going to start working on the actual code base to make sure that everything fires off the way it should be. Let's also make sure that we set our animation asset back to blueprint so that everything is the way that it originally is intended to be. So now that it is in the correct location, everything is great. We want to make sure that we go to event graph and find a space for wherever you want to create this logic. We're essentially going to be pressing a button and off of a flip-flop, checking to see whether the watch is on the screen or whether it's off the screen. If it's on the screen, then we're going to want to make sure that we're making everything go away. But if it's not on the screen, we're going to want everything to be shown. So in my case, I'll use the button X, I guess, just so I can show it in a demonstration. So I'll look up X key, and once I find the X key right here in keyboard events, I will start to go off of this for my logic. So let's move it over here a little bit just so we have more room, and we're essentially going to want to check a couple of things just so we can make sure that we can actually go ahead. So the first thing we want to do is create a variable, and it's going to be of type Boolean, and we're essentially going to want to see if we are on the watch. So let's do on watch ? And just to keep this all in the right categories, let's make sure that we set this to be the watch category, just so everything and all of our variables are more organized. So on watch, and we'll check to see if it's true or not. So if we are on the watch, that means that we want to turn it off basically. And if we're not on the watch, we basically want to turn it on. So let's handle this a little bit. So if we're on the watch, we want to make sure that we set a delay a little bit, just so that we have a little bit of time between when we press this button. We don't want to be able to spam this button. So let's do a 0.1 second delay, and then after that, let's go straight into our flip-flop. So let's grab a flip-flop node, and essentially, if you don't know how these work, it goes between the A condition or the A events and then the B events, and we'll cycle through every single time this is called. So for the A, we're going to want to show the watch, and then for B, we're going to want to hide the watch. So let's also make sure that the false condition goes to this as well. So let's do it like so, and bring it around just like this so we can have it a little bit more neat. So, okay, off of the A condition, what do we want to do? We want to show the watch. In order to show the watch, we're going to want to make sure the character is not moving. You don't want to move with the watch. So in doing that, let's make sure we disable movement from the character movement component. So you can keep it just like so. And then after that, we're also going to make sure we can't look around. So in doing that, we need to get the player controller from game and then go off of this author return value and set ignore look input to be true, because we don't want to be able to look around. We want to ignore the look input for this amount of time. So let's make sure we set it to be true using this check. And then after that, we're going to want to use a delay, because we want to make sure that if we're sprinting and then pressing this, that this actually calls into effect and it's actually called first. So let's call a delay of about 0.2 seconds and then make sure that we actually play the animation on our mesh. So let's play animation, and we want to play it on our mesh, since in this case my mesh is the leader pose of all of my other skeletal meshes. So we want to play it on the leader pose. So in this case, it would be my mesh. After that, we're going to want to make sure we grab the mesh that we created earlier, QE5_open watch. And after that, we're essentially going to want to transition our camera to be the one that is in this watch cam. But it's not going to be this exact camera, because if you do that, it won't have a true fading effect. So a better way to do this is to spawn an actor of a camera and then just handle destroying it every single time you hide the watch versus making it spawn every single time you show the watch. So it's a little bit easier that way. It's kind of confusing, but I'll show you exactly what we mean right now. So let's bring in the watch cam, and we want to get the world transform of this watch cam. Essentially, we're going to use the position that we predetermined previously and spawn a camera at that exact location. So let's create an actor, or spawn actor from class, and the class is going to be camera actor, just like so. And we're going to want to make sure that this get world transform goes right into the spawn transform. Let's move it down a little bit just so it's not overriding, and we can make this all straight as well. Off of this, we should probably set this to a variable just so we can access this a little bit later. So let's right click and promote to a variable and call this camera reference, because it literally is just a reference now, since this is going to be our new camera. So let's make sure that the category is of type watch, just so it's all in line with all of the watch variables, just like the other watch variable. After this, we're going to want to get a couple of things from the camera, namely the camera component, so we can start to adjust things like the constraint aspect ratio. So if you don't see it right here, you can also look for the set constraint aspect ratio, which will get the camera component just like so. We can go right off of here and do it like that. We want to make sure this is not checked, because if you don't, sometimes it'll make it so it's a box and not the original aspect ratio that it should be for your screen. We don't want to constrain that. We want it to be the normal aspect ratio. After that, we want to set the field of view. You can always set this to whatever you want, but I'm going to set the field of view to be 90, which I think it is by default, but just in case, make sure that it is set to be 90. Right here, you can also just bring this up like so and press Q to make sure it's all aligned. After this is the easy part. We essentially want to grab this value and make sure that we set the view target. After this precaution, we're basically just going to want to now fade the camera. So we can go off of this camera reference variable that we created, and we're basically going to want to set view target with blend. And if you don't see it, you can always context sensitive mode, and now you'll see it right here. This will be the new view target. We can put it in just like so and reroute this just so it's a little bit more appealing to look at and understand. Bring it around just like this and press Q. And the target is going to be, if you're confused about what this target is going to be and it says self right here and you don't really know what this is going to be, you can always read right here what the target should be, and it should be right here, player controller. So you can go off of this and go to context sensitive and get player controller, and you'll see it right there, what the player controller will now be the target. And lastly, we're going to want to make sure we set the blend time to be the time of the animation. So about 0.5 is great for this. And then we're going to want to change the on watch to be true, because now we're officially in the watch. Everything is now done. We're in the watch state. So like most things we do on this channel, it's going to be the opposite off of the B. So basically, we're going to want to make sure that we can move again, make sure that we are not playing the animation, and make sure that we go right back to the normal view target. So like I said, the first thing we're going to want to do is go to the normal view target. So let's set view target with blend, and just like before, we don't have the thing right here showing up, but you go here with the context sensitive and now you will see it. The new view target is going to be self, since we have another camera in here that is automatically activated. So let's make that self, and just like I said previously, this will be get player controller. So now we have that set up. Now it's going to fade back to our normal camera. After this, we're going to want to do a delay of how long the blend time should be. So in this case, it should be 0.5, and this delay should be 0.5. And the reason for that is because right after this, we're going to delete this camera actor. So let's get the camera reference and destroy actor. And so every single time you spawn it, if you don't destroy this actor every single time, it's going to keep spawning and keep spawning and keep spawning every single time you go and look at the watch, every single time you press the X key. So you want to make sure that you delete that reference so you don't have a leak basically in your code that will make it so your code and performance will automatically go down every single time they interact with the game. So this will make it so you destroy that actor and that automatically cleans up itself. But before you can do that, you want to make sure it fades to the normal camera again, basically making it so everything looks great. After this, we want to make it so the character can move again. We could do that first. Let's bring this down. And we want to essentially just set the animation mode of the mesh. Like I said, that's the leader pose. Set that to be animation blueprint once again, and then make sure that we set the movement mode off of the character movement. We can bring this down. Make sure that it is default land movement mode, and the target right here is also the character movement. Right here, you can do it just like so. And after that, what else is left? We're just going to want to make sure that the ignore look input is now not ignored. So we can set ignore look input, turn off context sensitive, make sure that it is not ignored. And you can see right here, the player controller is also the one that we need for this, the target that we need for this. So we can set it to get player controller, make sure it's not ignored, and then just like we did previously, make sure the on watch is set, but this time it's going to be false since we are no longer in the watch. So now everything should be set up if we compile and save, and if we go into the level, we should be able to view our watch. So let's go into the map. Let's make sure we can now get rid of this one. If you go up to here, up to self, and press the delete key, you won't see it anymore. Then we can press play and go into here. So you can see as we have it previously, we can press X and you can go right into your watch and you can see exactly what we had previously. So you can see subscribe to Code Things right here on the watch. And if you press it again, it will go away. And yeah, it's just that simple. We can now have a interactable watch just like Resident Evil right here in our own projects in Unreal Engine. It also doesn't matter where you're looking. So if you're looking up here, and if you do it, it'll go right here and it'll go right to your wristwatch, and then it'll go right back to where you were looking at previously. Same thing for if you're looking down, it'll go right up to the wristwatch and go right back to where it was down. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below more tutorials you'd like to see in the future. Also, if you guys would like to get all of these files, including the watch that you're seeing today, and also, by the way, you guys can change that wristwatch to be whatever you would like to be. It doesn't have to be subscribed to Code Things. It can show whatever you'd like. If you want to get this wristwatch, get all of the interactable blueprints or notes or health items or any of the things I've created, the footsteps, the character, the door system, the pushable object, whatever you would like, it is all available on my Patreon, along with many more other benefits. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.